Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the podcast that your host, your humble host, David Woodruff, lovingly call the Woodruff Report. This is going to be a very enjoyable episode of Woodruff Report, as we've got a lot to talk about. We've got the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship and Women's National Championship, both thrilling games in their own right. Congratulations to Villanova on the men's side on their deserved national championship, and congratulations to Notre Dame with one of the all-time clutch, greatest back-to-back games. Agumbawale deserves to have a shrine erected for her, which Notre Dame students are required to pray to as much as Jesus every day after her performance in the semifinals against the mighty UConn and then in the final against Mississippi State. Those two games concluded what was an all-time entertaining and enjoyable March Madness, both on the men's and women's side. From the men's point of view, I don't think there's ever been a year with more parity. I mean, more than half the games were upsets, it seemed like. Everyone was playing thrilling basketball. But more on that later. I don't want to give away all my good points because then you can just stop listening, and nobody wants that. One other thing that we're going to talk about, Champions League, the Champions, is back. We've got the first leg of the quarterfinals, including some thrilling matchups. They're all thrilling at this point. I mean, there are no scrubby matchups anymore because there are no scrubby teams left. None of the teams are scrubby. That was a figure of speech. Hyperbole, as they say. But these incredible matches headlined by, of course, Real Madrid and Juventus. More on those four matches later. But we do have to start with basketball because it was Champions League quarterfinals and NCAA basketball finals. Finals take precedent over quarterfinals, so let's get into it. This is the Woodruff Report. I'm your host, David Woodruff. Let's talk baloncesto. Let's talk football in 3, 2, 1. The Wildcats of Villanova are your men's NCAA basketball champions after defeating the Wolverines of Michigan 79-62 in what started as a pretty even, what seemed to be a good game, quickly turned into the Dante DiVincenzo show. But we start with how did this happen? Michigan was probably America's hottest team. They had won 10-plus games straight. They had cruised through the Big Ten tournament, winning the whole thing, beating Purdue in the final and Michigan State, two of the nation's top teams along the way. So they were hot coming into the tournament, and it continued throughout the tournament, although they were given a relatively easy way through. They took care of business, save for one incredible buzzer-beating moment by Jordan Poole in the second round against Houston. Relatively comfortably, some good games. The offense did what it needed to do, and the suffocating defense locked everybody down. On the other side, Villanova proved that they were the nation's best team, and it wasn't really that close throughout this tournament. In a tournament that is going to be remembered for parity and upsets, look no further than University of Maryland, Baltimore County, defeating the consensus number one team in the nation, Virginia, in the first round. In a tournament that's going to be remembered for the upsets, Villanova was clobbering everybody. No upset alerts. Their closest game probably came against Texas Tech. That game they won by more than 10 points and wasn't even that much of a thriller. It was just sort of interesting because they weren't hitting their shots like they were in all previous games and all games that would come after. Then in their Final Four game against Kansas, they could not miss. It was unbelievable. It was just drive and kick, and as soon as the ball was hoisted, The stadium knew, the Villanova players knew, the Kansas players knew, the Kansas janitors knew, the state of Kansas knew that the ball was going in and there was nothing they could do about it. And although Kansas put forth a pretty good offensive display, they were no match for Villanova, who seemingly hit a three on every possession. So, in the national championship, it was the nation's best team, Villanova, against the nation's hottest team in Michigan, and that was reflected in how the game actually went. Michigan starts hot. The big Berlin German Mo Wagner on the block is dominating. He's the only one on both teams who seemingly can hit a shot. He gets a few buckets in the paint early, is commanding the glass, hits a three. The Michigan fans are going nuts. Michigan has a chance, it seems, because this guy Mo Wagner is so dominant, and Villanova, although they do have a lot, they don't have that dominating big man presence. And for as well as Michigan played, the real reason Michigan was in front for the first quarter of this game was because Villanova was not hitting their shots. It seemed to be sort of they wasted all their threes in the previous game, because against Kansas they didn't miss. So, I mean, the law of percentages has to even out somehow. So the shots weren't falling from beyond the arc for Villanova to start the game, but they were able to hang with Michigan. And then the Michael Jordan of Delaware, as they call him, Dante DiVincenzo, checked into the game, and the rest is history. The man couldn't miss. He wasn't just chucking up threes. He was pump faking, getting in the lane, switching directions, switching hands, finishing at the glass, terrorizing the Wolverines, who could not match his offensive output. DiVincenzo with an all-time great March Madness game. He put up 31 off the bench to lead all scorers in the game. He got some help from Mikal Bridges, but no one really will talk about that because it was so DiVincenzo oriented. And the thing about Villanova is that something like this was coming. They have so many players on their team who can just get hot and start hitting shots like DiVincenzo did. You can lock down everybody, but then that one player will have the game of his life, and there's nothing that he could do. And that's what happened for Michigan. They were playing good defense. They were locking down Bridges to an extent. They were locking down Spellman, who hit a bunch of threes in the Kansas game. Brunson hit a few shots early, but then was relatively quiet. But then, so things are looking good. I mean, check, 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 check. You're locking down all these players, but Villanova just needs one to get you, and that's what DiVincenzo did. He was knocking down his shots. That forced Michigan to have to adjust to him. They had to get tight on the three-point line, creating driving lanes, and then, of course, that opened up for the kick, allowing Mikal Bridges to put up his 19, open the offense. Now Villanova are confident, and you don't want that to happen. Mo Wagner scored 19 for Michigan. Sorry, for some reason I forgot what that state was called. Muhammad Ali Abdul Rahman put up 21 points, but it was ultimately not enough. As soon as Michigan couldn't assert themselves on the glass, in fact, Villanova actually started asserting themselves on the glass as this game progressed. Any remaining hope that Michigan had of winning this game was over, because now Villanova are getting extra shots, and in the first part of this game, Michigan was leading by like 4 points, and they had 10 more shot attempts than Villanova. And that was the only way they were going to hang in the game, is outshoot Villanova by like 20 shots, because they just couldn't get anything to go in. Nobody. Really, Rahman, it was a lot of garbage time points for him, so that 21 is sort of an overrated 21. It was not crunch time, getting the guys going, that kind of 21. That was what Mo Wagner was doing at the beginning, but he could not put the team on his back for the entire game. So Villanova start to assert themselves on the glass. Now they're getting extra shots, kicking the ball out to DiVincenzo. And every time Michigan would make a run in this game, it seems like DiVincenzo would just take a nail, take a hammer, build a little coffin for Michigan, and hit the nail in the coffin. I remember one particular time, I think Wagner made it like an 8-point game or something, and it had been hovering around 15 for most of the game. So Wagner gets it down to 8, maybe even 6. The crowd's into it. Oh, there were a lot of Michigan fans there. Probably they definitely outnumbered the Villanova fans. Michigan fans travel well. So the crowd's into it. Oh, defense. And DiVincenzo gets the ball. High ball screen by Spellman. DiVincenzo doesn't even take the ball screen. He just shoots it from between like half court and the 3-point line. Swish. If no one on earth even thought that ball was going to hit the rim. And just like all the threes were going in against Kansas, this one was going to go in against Michigan because DiVincenzo was that caliente, that he was hot. He could not miss, and he continually just took the wind out of the Michigan sails. Every time a run like that would happen, DiVincenzo 3, lead is back up to 14. And that's deflating for a team because it seems like, well, we can literally have Michael Jordan on our team and DiVincenzo will just hit a 3 and we still won't win because they have the Michael Jordan of Delaware. One of the all-time great nicknames, too. Hot take for you right there. The Michael Jordan of Delaware. What does that even mean? Sorry, just got lost in thought there. So, congratulations to Villanova, who win their second national title in 3 years, defeating Michigan 79-62 in a game that in the second half was not actually that entertaining, but you've got to respect how dominant Villanova was throughout this tournament, especially in a March Madness that will be remembered for all the upsets. I can't finish talking about men's basketball without giving a quick shout out to Loyola of Chicago on an incredible Final Four run. It was very fun to watch, and it's why we watch March Madness, because stuff like this can happen, and it just doesn't seem to happen in other sports, that a team from the middle of Chicago who hadn't even crossed the mind of anybody makes it to the Final Four. So congratulations to them, too. Congratulations to UMBC. Congratulations to Nevada. Congratulations to all the teams that overachieved and had magical runs in the tournament. It is why we watch. Moving on, I do want to talk briefly about the women's national NCAA basketball final, and I want to talk about Notre Dame in particular because I feel like it got their semifinal and final got overlooked, and they were thrilling. The game against UConn, I was watching the whole third and fourth quarter, and it was just thrilling. I mean, you've got everything. You've got Notre Dame blowing a lead late on an inbounds pass that gets deflected by UConn for a game-tying easy layup after Notre Dame had been up 5, cold-blooded from the Huskies and Gino Auriemma. You've got this incredible Agumbawale who is just putting people through the mixer and hitting buckets willy-nilly. It was a great offensive game. No defense was played. You've got overtime against mighty UConn. Both teams playing their heart out on the floor. It was just a thrilling game. It finished 91-89. Agumbawale on the right wing by the elbow, crossover, step back, high arcing shot. The world seems to slow down. Who will it go? It reaches its apex. It's going straight down. Swish. Hearts broken. Notre Dame fans going crazy. All the people dressed up as leprechauns, there were far too many, are going nuts, dancing, Irish jigging. I don't know, however Notre Dame people celebrate victories, which I'm sure is fun. So, I don't know where this analysis is going, but Agumbawale hits the game winner, and then UConn hurls a length of the court pass that is deflected and ends up in Katie Lou Samuelson's hands for UConn with a chance to flip it up and in on the run. Clank. No good. And Notre Dame proceeds to go nuts because they've just beaten mighty UConn. Gino Auriemma goes out for the second straight year in the semifinals on a heartbreaking buzzer beater. Remember, last year they lost the championship. Did I say semifinal? Last year, Mississippi State hits that game-winning floater in the lane to break their hearts and break their 120-plus game winning streak. This year, the game winner from Agumbawale at the right elbow, high arcing shot, swish. Notre Dame's now in the championship. And remember, last year, Mississippi State sort of got crushed in the championship, so it was like, well, okay. They sort of lost all their momentum after beating UConn. They go into the championship and just get run by South Carolina. This year, Mississippi State is back in the championship looking for revenge. Game is tied late. Agumbawale gets the ball, again, almost the same spot, maybe a little bit deeper and a little bit more towards the baseline. A runner, she hucks it up. Again, the world stops turning. All eyes on Spalding as it reaches its apex and swish. This time there was no more time left on the clock. Notre Dame are your NCAA women's basketball champions in an absolutely incredible series of games. And for all the upsets that were in the men's, if you enjoy seeing the favorites, that's what happened in the women's basketball March Madness tournament. All 4 1 seeds made the semifinals, so all the 4 consensus top teams in America going at it with a championship on the line. It doesn't get any better than that, and how thrilling for Agumbawale, how thrilling for Notre Dame, who win their first title in a while. I think it was more than 15 years, and for a proud program like Notre Dame, that's a long time to go without a ship. Congratulations to the Fighting Irish, who are your women's March Madness champions, your national champions. So to shift gears completely from men and women's basketball to UEFA Champions League soccer, we also had Champions League this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're to that part of the Champions League calendar where it's just the big teams remaining. It's the games people tune in to watch. It's the best players in the world who are making the most money, paid to do it right now, and it's thrilling. It's thrilling football. So the 4 games that we had were Real Madrid-Juventus, which is a clash of absolute titans, a rematch of last year's final. We had perennial giants Bayern Munich going to surprise outfit Sevilla in the always intimidating Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan. Anything can happen when Sevilla plays at home. In the Wednesday games, we had an all-Premier League affair between mighty Manchester City, Pep Guardiola's band of robots who play perfect football, against emotional Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool in a thrilling Anfield environment. Don't underestimate Liverpool when they're playing at home. And finally, we had mighty Barcelona led by King Lionel against a side that many did not pick to make it to the quarterfinals in Roma, but a team that deserves to be there all the same and is overlooked by a lot of people. They're a very good team, and they proved it in their game against Barcelona. But there's only one place this recap can start, and that is in Turin, where Juventus host Real Madrid at the Allianz Arena, the Juventus Stadium, for what was sure to be a clash of the titans. You've got Buffon, you've got Dybala, you've got Higuain, you've got Isco, you've got Cristiano, you've got Sergio Ramos. The big names are out. It is time to play some football. And This game was exciting early. Juventus had a couple of chances, but it was Real Madrid who struck first through who else but Cristiano Ronaldo. Ball is crossed in from the left side. Cristiano gets in front of his marker at the front post, goes with the outside of the right foot, connecting sweetly with the ball and just hitting it with some nice swaz, as they call it, into the top right corner. Buffon rooted to the spot, nothing that he can do. Sort of a poke-in goal, but Ronaldo is the best in the world at movement inside the box. He timed his run to perfection to get in front of his flat-footed marker. 1-0 Real Madrid, who now have the crucial away goal that can never be understated. Juventus were threatening throughout this game, but could just not get the ball in the back of the net. And really, Keylor Navas, besides an incredible reflex save off a Juventus free kick, did not have a ton to do in the Real Madrid net, but let's talk about that. Ball is swung in by the incredible Miralem Pjanic, one of the best takers of set pieces in the world. Point blank header from the edge of the goalie box. Keylor says, "This is how they do it in Costa Rica." Sticks up his right hand. Ball caroms high into the air and over the goal. What a save by Keylor. Juventus hearts are broken. Ooh is heard around the stadium. The Juventus fans know that chance probably should have been put away against two-time European champs Real Madrid, who seem to always punish you for mistakes like that. And punish they did. Second half, Puskás Award on lock. One of the goals of Champions League history. Unbelievable. I don't even have the words to describe it. Ronaldo is played through, rounds the keeper, but is too close to the end line, cuts it back, and then passes it back to his Real Madrid compatriot, who takes the shot. Buffon, getting back into his goal, makes the save. The ball caroms out to the right side, then it's floated back in by Carvajal to about the penalty spot. Ronaldo has recovered. He winds up in slow motion. 2 long steps, goes up. The entire world. Is Ronaldo going to try an insane bicycle kick? Yes, he is. He connects with it sweetly. Buffon is rooted to the spot. It is the classic bicycle kick goal. Ronaldo has done the impossible. Gets his second of the game. Real Madrid second. And now Juventus are in a lot of trouble. What a goal by Cristiano. Hard for me to sum up in words. Look it up. I bet if you looked up, if you typed in CRI, it would say Cristiano Ronaldo bicycle kick goal against Juventus would be the top search, because everyone's watching this. This was, even if you don't watch soccer regularly, this is a joy to behold. You can appreciate it even if you don't understand all the rules or maybe think soccer is boring. This isn't boring. This is soccer at its most entertaining, at its apex, at its peak. Ronaldo 2-0 to Real Madrid, and Juventus are rattled and they start to go off the rails. Paulo Dybala picks up a second yellow. He's trying to control a ball over his head, doesn't realize that Dani Carvajal is right in front of him, and puts his studs into Carvajal's stomach, who, to his credit, sells it. Second yellow. Higuain and Juventus are now down to 10 men and down 2-0 to quite possibly the best team in the world, especially when you're playing in the Champions League. That is no easy task. So now all hands on deck. Let's keep it at 2-0. They aren't able to do that. Marcelo with a beautiful double 1-2 exchange, his classic meandering run up the left, and he chips it over Buffon before hammering it back into the back of the net. 3-0 Real. This tie is all but over, as the tie will now transition back to the Santiago Bernabeu, where a rowdy Real Madrid crowd will try to make sure that Juventus does not do the impossible. Real Madrid snag 3 away goals and keep a clean sheet, winning 3-0. They are as good as through to the semi-finals. Next, we transition to Andalusia, where Bayern Munich traveled to the rowdy home of surprise outfit Sevilla, perennial Europa League champions, but underachievers usually in the Champions League. This was an exciting game. Sevilla had a lot of chances early, none more than about halfway through the first half. There's sort of a scrum in the box and the ball comes out. A Sevilla player has a chance at the penalty spot, one-on-one against the Bayern keeper, but tries to precision it into the corner when maybe he should have just hammered it, and it remains 0-0. But Sevilla would get the breakthrough through Pablo Sarabia. Ball swung in from the left side. It goes all the way to the back post, where Sarabia, a questionable control. Did he handball it? Either way, Bayern seems to sort of stop playing after the handball. They're like, oh, handball, looking at the linesman, looking at the ref. Sarabia doesn't stop. The ball falls to him and he hammers it home with his left foot. 1-0 Sevilla, who were the better side in the first half and throughout the entire game. So this isn't some fluke goal. Sevilla are dominating and they get the breakthrough that they deserve. But Bayern Munich are Bayern Munich, and they do fight back. 2 own goals by Sevilla, one pretty much directly after Sevilla had scored. The ball's crossed in and it deflects off a Sevilla defender at the front post and falls perfectly between the goalie and the front post. Sergio Rico tries to claw it away, but the ball trickles in and it is now 1-1. Bayern now have that away goal and are sitting pretty at 1-1. Thiago Alcantara would score the winner in the second half. Ball is crossed in, goes to the back post. Thiago headers it down. It deflects off a Sevilla player and then past Sergio Rico, who probably would have had it covered had it not taken a deflection. Bayern win the game 2-1, and now Sevilla are in real trouble as they will have to go on the offensive when they travel to Munich and into one of the hardest environments to play in world football, the Allianz Arena of Munich. They've got their work cut out for them. They're going to have to attack, and there are certainly going to be holes in their defense available for Bayern to exploit on the counterattack. 2-1 it finishes to Bayern. Next to Wednesday's action and to the All-Premier League affair between Liverpool and Manchester City. Liverpool started this game on a mission. But Mohamed Salah opens the scoring. The ball is put through by Salah to Firmino, who cuts back before having his effort saved. It caroms out to a Man City defender who is completely flat-footed, tries to clear it, but Firmino gets there first, poking the ball away to Salah, who is right in front of the goal and slams it home. 1-0 Liverpool. Anfield is going absolutely nuts. This is one of the greatest environments in world football, and I'm telling you, there was not a centimeter of space in that stadium that was open. There were so many fans jammed in there, and they were all singing their hearts out, chanting, egging on Liverpool, and it's what ultimately allowed Liverpool to be so successful in this game. The second goal would come from Oxlade-Chamberlain. The ball is sort of caroming around in the midfield, comes right out to Chamberlain, who has a nice first touch and then hits an absolute screamer from outside the box right into the left side netting. Nothing Ederson can do about it. I mean, a powerful shot hit with so much pace. Ederson could hardly even dive. He sort of just watched it and slid. 2-0 Liverpool, and could this be going any better for Jurgen Klopp? I'd argue no, it couldn't. And the third would come shortly after. Salah has his effort blocked, but it comes right back out to him. He puts in a wonderful cross. Sadio Mane on the back post headers it down perfectly into the back of the net. 3-0 against Pep Guardiola's mighty City. Jurgen Klopp's going nuts. Merseyside is going nuts. This is the Champions League at its finest. 3-0 Liverpool. Now it's all hands on deck for the second half. Can they defend? And really, Karius had nothing to do in the Liverpool goal. They defended so well, and for a team that's had so many question marks at the back, few thought they could handle a entire half of an onslaught from Man City, who are so used to playing teams that just drop and defend and are so good at attacking it. Liverpool would actually probably have the best chance of the second half. The ball is cut back for Mane, who has his shot just barely deflected at about the penalty spot. That could have made it 4-0. So 3-0 it finishes for the Reds, who now will have to travel to the Etihad Stadium, which is close by, but they've got a 3-0 lead, but anything can happen with this Pep Guardiola City side. These guys are really, really good, and the Etihad's going to be rocking. There's going to be an incredible environment. There always is for Champions League games with these Premier League sides. It's going to be all hands on deck for Liverpool to protect this 3-goal lead. And if they give up an early goal, watch out, because now Man City has confidence and Liverpool has a 93% chance to advance, but as we know, this is the Champions League. Anything could happen. Finally, we traveled to Barcelona for the final game. Barcelona locked horns with a very good Roma side who were playing without arguably their best player in Raja Nainggolan, the holding midfielder. That would hurt. But Roma are a very good attacking side, and they had some good chances in this game. Florenzi had a chance early to make it 1-0 Roma off a beautiful cross, gets by everybody. He has a point-blank header, hits it wide. But Barcelona would ultimately take control. 2 own goals by Roma make it 2-0. The first on a beautiful interchange by Messi. A Roma player is desperately, De Rossi, his name was, is desperately trying to get the ball away from Messi, ends up perfectly scoring into his own net, and then Roma would score another own goal. You can't really do Barcelona any favors like that, especially at the Camp Nou. And Roma would actually score when it was 3-0, so it looks bad for Roma. But Edin Dzeko gets the ball in the middle of the Barcelona box, slants it home 3-1. Now there's an away goal and at least a glimmer of hope when the game transitions back to the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, but that is quickly dashed as Suarez hits it home on a scramble inside the box. It's 4-1 Barcelona. They look set to go through. So 4 thrilling ties. Real Madrid have all but booked their place in the semifinals, as have Barcelona. Liverpool look in very good shape, as do Bayern, but those 2 games are the ones to watch, as anything could happen. This has been the Woodruff Report. I am your host, David Woodruff. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the podcast. We talked about the NCAA men's and NCAA women's national championship, and then we went in depth on the Champions League ties. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tune in next week as we discuss the newest and best in the sports world. Again, I'm your host, David Woodruff. This has been the Woodruff Report. Make sure to tell your friends about it and make sure to listen next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a terrific weekend and have a terrific next week.